through the cloud. Okay, hello. I'm here with Tracey Crowell. Tracey is a lot of things. Tracey does a
I
lot
have
of
a
cool
lot of
things.
things. A lot of
um,
names.
I'm forever branded with Tracey. She drew my tattoo.
I
Didn't
forgot
even
that.
know she was drawing it at the time. But I went through Reiki 1, 2, and 3 with Tracey. But we're not talking about Reiki today. We're going to talk about shamanism and being of service, because that is just one of the many things that Tracey does. And I've been blessed to go through a session or two with some cool spirits and some magical experiences in her room at Maja. And my goal really is to expose everyone in the group to as many different modalities as possible, because, I think hypnosis is awesome and learning to eat better is just as awesome, but sometimes you need a little something else. And if you don't know about lots of things, you don't know what you need. So what we're doing today is really working on that and exploring some other things so that you can have more tools in your tool belt when you need some help. So, Tracey, why don't you tell us what shamanism means to you?
Yeah, to me, right? Well, shamanism dates back to prehistoric, the cave arts in Asia, Siberia, the continents. When they find the cave arts, they would see, along with other, the other stuff going on in the cave arts, rituals, building fires. So there's evidence of it long ago. And one of it's across the globe. So many different places have many different, beginnings of shaman, basically the medicine man, who from this continent, there would be medicine woman or medicine man in indigenous culture here, Native Americans. The Aborigines, they would have their medicine person. And so Mexico, curandera, there's all different names for the healer of the tribe. And shaman is one of them. Shaman came from the originals, I guess you say shaman, from northern Asia and Siberia, and it was Saman, best translated. So that's where shaman came from, the name shaman. The Peruvians, the Amazonians tend to use that word shaman. It actually is a word that's been picked up now as like, oh yeah, oh shaman. And there's the contemporary shamans, and there's the shamans and the shamanism and the shaman schools, and there's all things. So shaman is another name for medicine person. And in the older ancient days, and even still in the tribes that are still, in the indigenous peoples, there's a person that has been born to be a medicine person. They have certain, traits, or they're in a family that's the medicine. They learn the herbs, so they spend their life, it's a way of life, they spend their life in nature, learning the herbs, learning how to access other realms by going into deep trances, and they become, or they are, the shaman. So that's shamanism to me, is coming back into those ancient ways. There's some training involved for sure, but basically at its root is that a shaman, medicine woman, curandera, whatever you want to call it, relates to nature and knows and feels the spirits of the nature, and is able to, through much practice, discipline, and just being tuned in, to connect to the subtler energies, the subtler, not just here, not just using our eyes, but using our whole body and tuning into that. That's basically for healing and for service to the earth.
So, I mean, how do you know? Because, I mean, for people who've never experienced like a shamanic healing session or a shamanic journey, what would be the best time to use those tools?
Okay, well, that's a good question. So if someone never know nothing about it, okay.
Yeah.
So in essence, I would say, if you want to become a shaman, I'm not a shaman. I don't feel like I am one. As I was like looking at my notes and all my stuff for today, I thought, I was looking at everything I've done and my way of life, and my children are home right now for Thanksgiving, and then they're like, Mom, you're a shaman, stop. But I don't think of that because I'm not an indigenous, Celtic shamanism, I'm from Ireland and Scotland, but I haven't really, I don't know that either. So I would say contemporary shamanism. If they were going to learn how to be a shaman, that's a whole different thing. But if they want to experience a shamanic healing, right, or experience some of the feelings about it, I would say, am I answering your question or am I going off on a tangent?
I mean, I love going off on tangents.
Oh,
Just keep going.
I'm a tangent person. Say the beauty about exploring the shamanism with someone now, that someone even comes for a Reiki session. Let's pull in Reiki for a second. If you're learning Reiki, a lot of the books and original books from the Reiki actually do the practices of shamanism, of healing. The energy body. So you'd have to learn about your energy body. In Peruvian shamanism, in the teachers that I've had with that, it's the luminous body. And so, the simplest thing is your energetic field. We all have an energetic field. When I look at you, I'm not necessarily, even online, I'm not necessarily looking at you, I'm feeling your field. So sometimes our field gets all crapped up with stuff. And I know this firsthand because I'm always working on myself. Number one thing for shaman, medicine woman, Reiki master, anything, it's not about you. You're right there with everybody else. In fact, I'm a lot of times worse off than everybody else. So I would go and explain the field, and our field kind of sometimes gets stuck, like when you're feeling heavy, when you're sick, you want to take care of your energetic field out there. And then one of the things shaman would do is shake or clap or sing. That's why sound healing is good. And that all clears your field out. I would say number one is start to feel your energy systems, feel that. The way of shamanism that goes into the other realms of soul retrieval, power animals, all that is another whole kind of shamanic journey thing. You really need to be rooted in your body. And it comes with you, where health practices every day, knowing yourself. If you're just going into, oh, I'm going to go meet my power animal, I want to do a journey. You'll get there, but it's not going to be as effective as being in your body. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that really stuck with me is, anytime I've come to you and we've done a session on this stuff, it's been kind of like I've been in a funk and I don't really know what's next. You have those moments where in your life where you feel so in the flow, and then you have other times where you're like, something is seriously wrong. I don't really know how to get out of this. I just find myself in this negative looping thought pattern. And it happens to all of us. No matter how much training you've had, something can always come along that can stress you out, send you into a little bit of a tailspin. I mean, I'm having, for some context today, I mean, my uncle's been in the hospital for like 4 days. And remember when I was in South Africa in June, he went for surgery because he had a bunch of clots in his leg that were preventing circulation. And he went for surgery. He never healed from the surgery. And long story short, they have to amputate his leg today. So it has been, very, very emotional, and this is a time, like for me, where something like, coming back to all of this is very important because, especially like when you look at the human condition is that we always want to go back to what's familiar, right? So when your familiar pattern is something bad happens and I go in a tailspin, that's exactly when you need to employ these kind of strategies to teach your body a different way of looking at things, but also to give yourself another coping skill, because otherwise you're just going to keep going back. So, I mean, this is how I look at this kind of stuff. I remember when I came to you, I had a repressed memory. Do you remember that session or no? I mean, it's so out there. I had a repressed memory that I wasn't so sure of. And it was coming to me from a past life, actually. And, we went there and you called on kookaburra and you didn't even know what a kookaburra was.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's something from South Africa. And like what I really took away from that was that we're really at one with the universe. And that's something that we focus on a lot when we went through Reiki, like being at one with what's around us and realizing that this is just you know, for me, Reiki is just who we are. It's just how things are. It's not a thing that you learn to do. It's not like a special, like it's not a special training, even though it is. It just, this is how things are. There's a
Right.
force through the universe, and we're all with it or against it, no matter what you're doing,
Right.
right?
Right.
But shamanism really brings it in like a more visual way, because when you're in that session, you can feel like Kookaburra over here, and I can't remember where he was, and you know, the coyote in this place and the
Right.
elephant
Right.
in this place,
Right.
and you're really, you know, it's a visual that
Well,
helps you kind of understand like what's going on.
and that's the key item of it. Like one of the key things is getting back to childlike wonder, your childlike imagination. Nowadays, I have a lot of young people that have lost their imagination. They're on their devices. It's we're losing our imagination. We're losing our ability to go off and actually, and as adults, like, oh, we might see it. We might be like, oh wow, look at that tree. It looks like a something. Oh, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, someone just said outside in the parking lot last night, whoa, look at that. It looks like a ship. Wow. You know, you have to have that kind of, your
Yeah.
imagination is your subconscious. It's our first language. And our imagination will help us create. Our imagination has created this Zoom. Someone imagined it somehow. And it comes, our reality that we see all that is coming from the quantum fields, like you said, and the universal you know, plasma, the universal connections, and our imaginations help. So in a shamanic, I'm finding a lot of what's really, really great is just having them first meet a power animal. A lot of people have trouble imagining you're going to go into a shamanic journey is imagining a guided meditation. The difference between a guided meditation and shamanic journey is shamanic journey can be intense and it's real. And when you go to get your soul back from a, you know, shattered, you know, fragmented place, you need a power animal to bring you back. And people don't understand how that, I mean, I'm trained and I've been doing this for a long time, so I can come back. I still get lost. But it's basically your imagination that guides you. And that animal, I have an apprentice right now, and she just texted me yesterday saying, okay, so, and she just met her power animal. We had that whole thing. And she said, so do you ever lose your spirit out animal ally? Like, are they going to fade away? So I explained to her that if your animal is like an elephant,
That's my elephant. That's my
oh,
animal.
I have an elephant. So if you have an elephant, and you have to suspend your beliefs of, you
Yeah.
know, wait a minute, is this real?
Yeah.
Is it real? Who cares if it's real? If you heal, if you come out of that session and start being like, wow, I didn't, Kuka, you know, Kuka beer. If I was going to be like, oh God, what am I saying about Kuka beer? Where did that? It came from the field. That came from you, and you have to, you know, that childlike wonder again comes out.
Yeah.
Say like elephant. If you get an elephant, then the more you honor that elephant, the spirit of all elements. So shamans are connected to nature and believe that there's a spirit in everything, and there's a life force in everything, like the force with you. You will be able to access that spirit of the elephant. Now, if you
Yeah.
start using that elephant in a bad way or whatever, then that's going to come back at you. So I'm
Right.
going to get back to, if you're going to explore shamanism, because it's a buzzword right now and everyone can be a shaman and everyone can be a Reiki master, you're going to have to face your shadow. In the
Yeah.
old days, in the old and ancient ways, they still do this, is if someone was becoming a shaman or medicine woman, or man, they would bury them up to their head in the middle of the village and everybody would taunt them for 3 days. Some people get buried underneath. It's not for everybody. It is tough. And now I didn't have to do that, but I had to do some serious thing that brought up every fear in me that I thought I was going to die. Do we like to do that? No, but it does help you to go through your stuff. So there is a vulnerability. And there's a vulnerability to be on the table like you. I mean, it takes a lot to get on the table and believe in a kuka beer. Right?
And I think like when we look at something like this, like you touched on that imagination, and I think that's so important because, you know, when you're in this line of work and you're working with people to try and change the way that they are, where they're unhappy, into something that they say that they really want, something, you know, you have to have imagination to get there. And when for so many decades people have been ignoring their imagination, it's just like, no, I must be practical, I must do this, and then I must do that. And then you ask them, well, what do you want? oh, well, I don't want my spouse to do this, and I don't want this at my job, and I don't want this. But it's like you're almost incapable of thinking, well, what do you want? Because you can't use that don't all the time. So something like this it's like a fun way to bring that part of you back up, to resurrect that part of you. Because a lot of people, you have this trauma from childhood, and you're carrying this around, and there's that little girl or little boy inside of you that's still in pain. And really, like, the only way to move from that pain to where you want is by using your imagination in a better way. And so that's like what I loved about this the most.
Yeah, and it touches upon every modality, like what you do. It's a guided meditation. You may bring something up from your childhood in that. Inner child work in therapy. There's so many other modalities of this. In shamanism, it's you're fragmented. Part of your soul's left, and we will go in guided journey, but it's real. I mean, it's the real realms. And you can find, or the shaman can find that fragmented piece and bring it back. And my experience is it's kind of out there for someone, and it's scary. And of course, you would have to, you'd have to go through some other sessions first to do that. But and that's one of the things shamans do. The soul retrieval, the contracts that you've made in this life. The first time I ever went through my soul contract, it's a whole series of journeys, is you go to, at the very basic, you go to this room or you go to this place, and whatever was bothering you, you go to this place, and what does it look like? Mine was shattered. It had tattered old rags in it, and torn curtains. And I'm like, oh, so you go through a series of what are you going to do with that, and move through your contract with this particular thing you're going through. And then you come out of there. You might not believe it, but it actually does move into that subconscious and bypass rational mind.
Yeah.
And the other beauty of it is, like Reiki with distance healing. I'm going to do that. Well, like maybe we're doing that now for your uncle, is we can affect change through those shamanic journeys. Like a lot of times, I'm not to tout this, but hired to like help with a relationship. Someone was going to court. So I, went into my little thing, got a mouse, and the mouse brought me to the court and did this whole thing. Now, do I believe it? I don't know. I'm trained to let go. It's like a little bit of pretending and a little bit of just letting go, and that affects change. It really does. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah it is. I mean, I remember going through something with you, and then with Paul, there was like a day where I did something with both of you, and Paul's going to be on here talking about sound healing in a couple of weeks. But we did something with my ex, with Sage's dad, and went through this whole thing. And it was maybe a year later that I really understood everything that we talked about that day. I mean, we went to a room. You talk about your room was tattered. My rooms are always in the middle of the Himalayas. There's like snow everywhere, and I'm walking barefoot through the snow into this like temple that's like all glass, and it's like snow and mountains everywhere. Every single time. I mean, ever since I did Reiki, it's been like that, because I really I had an intuitive tell me that at one point I was a monk in Tibet with my nephew Tyrone in that life. And ever since then, I mean, that really felt true for me, because even when we were doing the attunements at our Reiki class, it was like, this is something that's always been with me. Like, I always feel like I went off on a tangent. Yeah. I always feel like, I was in there, but my room it was all snow and mountains. And I had a conversation with my ex, and I really understood some things about our relationship and my life, and the lessons that he has taught me, because I went from a place of like, I can't believe he did this to me. I can't believe this is happening. This is so difficult. Why, when I'm trying so hard, is he being so mean? And then I went through that journey, and I was like, wow, one day when I die and Jason dies and we have a conversation in the afterlife, I'm going to be like, you crushed that, you did that job so well. I learned that lesson. Like, I would never have learned that lesson that fast if it weren't for you, you know? And I went through that. It really took me out of that place of blame, of like, of understanding, of like looking at the, you know, the greater scheme of life,
Right.
and why things are happening and how they're happening, and really seeing, you know, the grander purpose in everything, which I think gives you a lot of comfort, you know, afterwards. You know, it's massively empowering, because then when something happens a year later, even after you've been through that journey, and something happens and you're feeling like angry, frustrated, hurt, you know, whatever, it's just a struggle period, you can look back on that time and you can be like, well, remember that journey where I went through,
Right.
and how I've looked at this thing, and how that was obviously in my greatest purpose, no matter how uncomfortable it was. And then you're looking at this new situation, you're like, okay, so it's got to be the same thing, right? Because the universe is kind. So if that thing was really difficult and I learned something, what am I learning now actually from this thing? And because we tend to look at a situation and then blame and complain and try to think our way out of it from that space. But once you've been through a couple of these journeys, it's completely different.
Yeah,
know?
that's true. And it's so great that we can help people in these ways. And it's a visceral, I like the one-on-ones, although online is fine too. And I do them by phone. I just did one by phone, and it can be very confusing because there's so many modalities, and now there's so much out there on Instagram and stuff, like, is this shaman? Just for the heck of it, this morning I typed in Instagram shaman. I'm like, what if I was looking for what would it come up? And I'm like, oh god, not that, but it's very it's another thing. Not that anybody's not legit on there, but there's such a rich way of healing. And very similar to everything else, very similar to your hypnosis, very similar to Reiki. There's a lot of different modalities, and Paul brings you into that. So back to what is a shaman. Paul doesn't, and no one knows Paul, so it doesn't make sense. But he does a lot of modalities. They're not necessarily shamanism, shamanism, because it's a way of life, whatever way of life. So it's not like you take a shamanism course or this course or a Reiki course and you're that. Right. It is an absolute way of life. And my part of where I learned is Peruvian shamanism. And it was not, I didn't go to school. I actually just happened upon, and we ended up in the Andes with the Quietos, and that still is with me. So that kind of learning, we're all learning, like you say, with hypnosis, we're hypnotic anyway. We are all learning and breathing with nature and experiencing. It's just that so why not start to choose the experiences that it will be with you, like, not that you have to travel to Peru, because you don't. There's indigenous beings and spirits here. I was trained by someone here on the Cape. So, and this is everyday living. Like, you just go and then come back. I mean, there's every morning, even this morning, I called in the directions. The trees are always talking to you. If you go in nature, there's a reason why everyone say, go walk,
get outside. Get
outside, go in nature, because there they are. You're living and breathing with them. You're part of them. And if you are that and in service of that, there's a vast opportunities for healing and remembering yourself. So it's really about remembering. That's what I do on the table. It's not me. I just like do some stuff, and the opening and the remembering of who you are comes out. Does that make sense? Because
I think that's all we're doing as people, doing this work. I mean, we're helping you realize who you are, whatever modality it is. It's not, and I say that all the time. Like, I have this one client who, he came for one session, and maybe a month later I saw him, and I'm like, well, what do you want to work on today? And he said, well, I don't know. I mean, I did one session and I was just a completely different person, and giving me all the credit. I'm like, dude, I didn't do that. No, you did that. I'm here facilitating, but you were the one that showed up open. You were the one that had the intention. You were the one that willingly went there. It's like that with all of this. And I feel like, and I was talking to someone just before this webinar, actually, I think that everyone who is really doing the work, who's really living this as a lifestyle, as, you know, this is who they are, almost none of them take credit. You know, you think of Ram Dass, like becoming no one, you know, that's all you're doing. You're helping people remember who they are, and it's never about you. It's always about them remembering. It's
I
always about
love that,
them being
remembering
empowered. Yeah.
who they are. That's what
Yeah.
Maj is actually about. And I, of course, we all go into our, oh, we got to do this, and I'm trying to do this,
Yeah.
and when you let that go, and it's not about you, you're nothing, you're just empowering others, then you're so empowered. But we've forgotten that, and that's actually
Mm.
just what happens in a shamanic journey, and you know, in a session. And it doesn't even have to be, you know, it's just being in a space where you're saying, okay, I'm here, I'm going to show up for myself, I'm going to show up not only myself but everyone around. Because in this way of being, when you shift, then the people around you shift. They might fight it and not look at it, but there is a shift. And in this world right now, we're scared. People are scared. People are what's happening, and what is the world going to end? Well, it only takes a number of people. It doesn't take 8 billion people to change. It just takes like us to do the best we can do, and then that will shift others, and that will shift others. And if we, like in the quantum fields, if we keep on doing that, then that's going to affect change, right? It can be very magical. It's
So
actually
magical.
stunning in many ways. And you have to honor your human self, because in the training, I mean, there was one time when I had to go into a, you know, meditation, and go to, I did this particular thing that I had to do. I did it at home. My teacher said, go do this. And she said, there'll always be validation in the real world, because whatever you're doing in your mind is going to translate in the world. If you're subconsciously thinking of, you know this, and you teach us all the time. Well, if you subconsciously go into a journey, which I had to find an animal, whatever. So I went to the Grand Canyon, and I had to journey there, and I was not good at it at all. My mind went other places. I was thinking about stuff. Oh shoot, yeah, I got to come back. It was yeah. So anyway, I went to CVS the next day or 2 days later, and they had these pictures on the table, and one picture fell down, and I picked it up to put it back, and it was exactly the animal, exactly where I saw. I was like, oh my God, can I have this? So I called my teacher. I can't believe this. This is so cool. And she was very great. She was very tough. She's like, you're not special. You're just tapping in. So you will be validated, because the real world that you live in will translate from what you're doing. And that was so powerful. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So it tunes into your power. Most of us are afraid that we're powerful. We don't want to be,
Right.
oh no, I'm not that great. I don't want to do this. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So it just allows us to accept that, and helps us to be like, you know what, you can be really great and be in service of people. Guess what? You can be living a great life and sharing and being your best self. You don't have to be downtrodden, and you don't have to be miserable to get into it. I mean, of course we all are. I'm pretty miserable with my stuff that's going on right now, but overall, overall what it does is that people are like, Tracey, are you right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. You know,
Yeah.
because it helps you to get to, like you said, that higher or a larger perspective, and then you attract the people like that, and it's work, but it's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely enables you to shift a lot faster if you were someone who used to wallow.
Yes.
Yeah, because you realize the power that you have over yourself. I was thinking as you were talking of, I think it was on Amazon, that documentary, Channeling Bashar, about that guy who channels some being from another solar system or whatever. And he said, you know, one of the things that really stuck with me when I watched that was, he said, human beings are so powerful that they can keep themselves down just by the power of their thought. And that's something that sat with me, because, you know, once you realize that you can choose something better, once you realize you can use your imagination again, once you realize you don't have to stop being, you know, you don't have to stop that childlike wonder that you had years and years ago. Once you realize all those things, your life can be completely different, you know, in a very, very short period of time. But also your thoughts can keep you exactly where you are, because your thoughts are so powerful.
That's why you have to learn the other, like begin a way of life almost. Get
Yeah.
your energy cleared, dun, 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 and then become, because shamanism is about ritual. You
Mm-hmm.
don't just build a fire, you actually bless the stick to go to the thing. And and then the stars, people that are stargazers, that they're Huron who have certain things that they do every day. The shamans in partly Peru is Pachacuti. They build their mesas, they build their despachos, the apachados, the circles of stones, the
Mm.
medicine wheels, and that's creating a reverence to earth. And
Mm.
you live in a reverent way. It doesn't mean you're always reverent. I'm definitely not. But you can't, swear or anything. It's not that. And it's not a religion. It's not a
Yeah.
religion. It's actually in all of us. This is our
Mm.
birthright to be. This is our, to be this, like to
Mm.
explore and help. If we were the stewards of the earth and lived in community, guess what? We're not going to need money, or we're not going to need to hate you. I don't hate, we're going to
Yeah.
have differences, but then we will move through. I'm hoping that we're in this evolutionary leap now. I'm hoping we're going to get there. And
We're getting there.
and we are getting there, and through this type of awareness. Right now it seems like my daughters are home. We just talked a whole bunch about they're very disheartened because they're on Instagram a lot and they're online a lot, and they're like, well, all these people are like, well, this is this, and I'm selling this because I'm a shaman. And because I told them I
Mm.
had an interview, like, you're having an interview, mom? Oh my God, you shouldn't be like the Instagram, shamans. I'm like, no, no, no. Or the Reiki masters. I'm a Reiki master. Not to dismiss this, but right now we are in a time where that's the go-to place. You can get this, and you can get this, and you can be this really fast. I'm
Mm.
excited because more people are aware. And
Mm-hmm.
so that the more that we can bring awareness to the authenticity of these
Mm.
beautiful ancient practices in the beginning of the earth, now we're learning that it wasn't 30,000 years ago, it was a million years ago that there were
Yeah.
artifacts. So and we're learning the truths about things, so
Right.
that in our work, every time someone's on our table, every time we do something, we're bringing back that, wow, we can remember ourselves, we can be in service, we can be authentic, and
Mm.
it's way more fun.
Yeah. 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 It is. It's way more fun
Way
in
more
that
fun.
magical place. Magical
And
place.
not to dismiss, but the stuff that goes on, because bad things happen.
Yeah. I
Stuff
mean, stuff
happens.
happens, but I mean, everything happens for a reason too, right? Everyone's learning things
Yes, absolutely.
for
Well, I'm
for
going through such a physical thing, and I'm now looking like, okay, what is this pattern in me? I mean, I'm
yeah.
not just walking around like floating around. I've got some stuff going on. I'm like, okay, let's take a look at this, because I've got stuff. I was brought up with stuff.
Yeah, everyone has stuff. And it doesn't even matter like how well intentioned the people around you were. You no one's perfect. You make mistakes, and that breeds stuff, right?
They are right. So the
It's
stuff
like,
you can get rid of not rid of it. You don't even want to get rid of it. If you see it and name it and got it, then yeah. And then you have a couple animals to help you along the way. That's beautiful.
yeah, I mean, I think like, some people will go through their life, and they'll go through 30 years with their stuff, you know?
Mhm.
And sometimes it's Reiki that shifts that for them. Sometimes it's going to do a shamanic journey. Sometimes it's doing EFT. Sometimes, it could be anything, and why I'm doing these calls with people like you is to help people understand, it doesn't have to be just one thing. And
Right.
you can choose something that feels like it might be fun to you, and just don't overthink it too much. Just go.
Mm.
Like, I didn't come to you saying I need a shamanic session. It was just
Right.
like I just knew that I had to come see you,
Right.
and I didn't know
And people
why, and
that
so I
come to
came.
me, yeah, don't necessarily, it's not necessarily shamanic, although everything is kind of shamanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not too much work in it. And then, and also for people that it might just not be for them, like intuitive reading. Maybe
Yeah.
hypnosis is not for them. Maybe
Yeah.
this, having your field out. I don't like the shakers. A lot of times I was shaking, they don't, and I say, everybody, this is you. It's not about me. I just happen to have tools. I just happen to know some stuff and be able to tune it. If it's not for you, not for you. And
Mm.
maybe you will go on, you know, you're not going to take a shamanic journey and do a hypnosis and do a thing and figure it out. I mean, it does take a lifetime too. And
Yeah, and I
sometimes,
mean, the nature of the human condition is to want to continually improve too, right? So even if you have this little piece of your stuff that you want to move through, and then you do, well, then you're going to butt up against the next part of your comfort zone, right? And you're going to want to naturally improve that and move through that as well. So
yes.
there's
And
always something to do.
yeah, and there increases your kind of exploring these things, increases the synchronicities in life. It increases, it'll bring those things into my daughter who you know, was going through some stuff, and we went through journeys, and she met an owl, and owl was her thing. Didn't kind of really be into it. Okay, yeah, owl. Well, she was in Hawaii and hit upon a really hard time, and I mean, awful. Well, I'm not talking just like, oh, she tripped. It was bad times. And she's in Hawaii, and an owl came and flew right by her, and she called crying, going, Mom, what just happened? An owl. I'm like, you called an owl. So now
Yeah.
you're, you know, someone just had, that I was working with, a child actually, met her little power animal. And then it just turned out that like 2 days later, that little animal walked right by her, and she's like, hi. If you let go of that, the kind of stuff that we have to be a certain way, and open to those synchronicities, they will happen.
Yeah.
It's so,
Yeah.
and then the more that you, I mean, you know, if they don't for a while, but the signs are everywhere. The universe is for us. The even license plates in front of you. If you tap into it, if you actually tap into that web, you can go crazy. Like,
Yeah.
this spent about a year doing that, and everything connects, and it gets
Yeah.
to be like you can't even function in life. So my yoga teacher calls this Grisht Ashram, where we are the people who are seeking and moving into that beautiful, like that web of life, that everything's connected, and yet we're still functioning. We're still like
Yeah.
going through the trenches. We're still doing this. We're the people that are doing that. And that's a beautiful thing. And just that, if you're if you are exploring this stuff and even listening here, and you're still in your stuff, yay you. Because
Yeah.
you're transforming. For one of my shamanic teachers told me, because I kept going in, I'm trying and I'm doing, and she's like, you know, just your vibration on the planet, just to let you know, just your vibration on the planet, as long as you keep, you know, looking at yourself and being, you know, better and in service, you don't really have to do anything. Just your vibration is changing the planet. And that kind of gave me permission not to have to do 40,000 things.
Yeah.
And so it can be
Because
simple.
it's something like, once you start learning, you go, oh my goodness, there's billions of people on the planet that need this, you know?
Right.
You're like, oh no, all of a sudden
Oh,
I have to
wow.
do
Yeah.
7 billion different
Right.
things today.
Right. We got to help them. My God. And it does come, like people call and, you know, need emergency sessions. And I mean, you have to say, yeah, that whole thing. But yeah, changing the world. So
Yeah. Good. Well, is there anything else you wanted people to know about? Like,
no, I think that you know, to be open to it. And I don't think so. I think that to watch out for how much is going on out there, and don't even listen if something that I'm saying doesn't resonate. I it's perfectly fine. Things that I do may not resonate, and it may not be for you. So instead of going out there and having to do this and being like, I need this, it's really is about where we are. I mean, in my experience as being, I'd call myself a contemporary a shaman. I am a medicine woman because when my parents passed, they were very in the box, and I learned that we have a lineage of healers. So you learn about yourself, and everyone is so unique. We're the same, but everyone is so unique. And that if we can accept that and open to that, and you just need help, like with hypnosis, with, you know, a healing session, and be open to it. And it's hard. There's some hard stuff going on, hard to climb out of it when you're in it, but trusting and believing, I guess I would say.
Just staying open really to an
And
alternative.
watching for how you feel. Like if something doesn't resonate with you, you know, in relationships is like that too. Like, oh, you see the red flags, but you don't listen. You learn about your own intuition, our own, not just instincts and fight or flight, but intuition. That's what we're learning. And that's why drum circles, that's why gathering together, sound healings, you know, those are, and they're everywhere now. So explore it, and certainly find somebody that you trust and feel good, you know, feel good about it. And come to Maja.
And come to Maja. That was going to be my next question. So for those of you that don't know, so Tracey, can I say runs Maja, even though it really runs itself, but Tracey is
I'm in service of it.
She's in service of Maja, and that's where I met Tracey, actually. And I'm there sometimes, not as much as I would like, but definitely the last Saturday of every month, Tracey and I do a workshop, which you can come to, and we include some Kundalini, we include some sound healing, and we do hypnosis, and we have a little discussion afterwards, and it's always a magical time. It's my favorite Saturday of every month for sure. But you can reach out to Tracey at Maja if you want to book a session, right? And yeah, I mean, what else?
Or reach out to you, you know. Reach out to me. And what else? I just, we're just, I don't know. Thank you so much.
Maja is MASJAH for those of you that are not familiar with the space. Just if you're looking for it online.
Movement, awareness, strength, joy, aloha, health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, Tracey, for your time today.
Yay,
thank you, everyone who's listening now and on the recording. And shoot us a message if you have any questions.
Okay.
See you soon.
Thanks so much. Bye.